I can be honest because it's my channel. I can say what I want. Yeah, we're not going to accept those, mostly because it's not a short story. It's not complete. And as I promised in one of my C Squared Chronicles that may or may not have already come out, I am here with Tatiana Obey, and we're here to talk to you about Magic in the Melanin. The pre-order has been live for 2 weeks now. It is a Black fantasy anthology that we are putting together to help support the Melanin Library. And the Melanin Library is an online database of books written by Black authors that basically I started because y'all need to diversify your bookshelves. That's what it boils down to. And it needs to be easier to do that. That being said, our submission window has been open for almost 2 months. And while this video is late coming, we want to talk to you guys about the anthology and answer some of the main questions that we have been getting and things that we feel like should be addressed as a whole, so that if you see this before you submit to us for this anthology, great, keep that in mind. But if we do another anthology, the same rules will apply. I'm gonna go in order with these questions, try to run through them. And the first one, and I'm gonna let Tatiana answer this, because when I tell y'all she's on the front lines reading all the submissions, I know that there's going to be some rage in these answers, and I'm living for it, but no rage. I joke. But first question is, what is a short story? I feel like we should clearly define that.
Yeah, at least for the purposes of this anthology, we are looking for stories of the length of 4,000 words to 7,000 words. So we are looking for stories that are that short. But in regards to what is a short story, even though the story is short, we're still looking for a story. So we are expecting stories that have a beginning, a middle, and end. So it has a very clear plot arc and even clear plot character arc. And sometimes, yes, they can be kind of connected to maybe wider stories that you might have or you might be writing, but there still needs to be some kind of closure. You introduce a plot point at the beginning and you're closing something at the ending. You know, very similar to, for example, standalones or even first books in the novel. You've introduced something and it closes something. It still feels final. You still feel satisfied with the story by the end of it. And I know that's very, very hard, especially for our genre in regards to fantasy, because a lot of us fantasy writers, we are very long formats. Yes. Condensing that and writing that into a short story can be really difficult. My biggest recommendation is to read short stories. It's also very helpful to find like a critique partner or someone who can read it after you, that can help you identify if there's information missing or if there's information that can be taken out. And I know for me, it was definitely a learning curve, and learning like what type of story can be told in such a short length, because there are some stories that in order to be told well does not fit within 7,000 words. Like being able to identify what those stories are that you can tell in a short amount of time.
I 100% agree. When I wrote my short story for the anthology, and even for like other submissions to other projects and stuff, it was such a learning curve, because if you have read We Are the Origin of Weird Dying Gods, you will know that I'm very long-winded. I cannot do anything quickly. And so I really had to learn how to make it a little bit more concise. But seriously, knowing what stories can actually fit, because some stories are a novella. Some stories take more time. There are just more characters, more world building, more depth that you really need to touch on in order to make the story work. But the main thing is there has to be an end, okay? Tatiana said beginning and middle. I'm going to focus on the end, because y'all got the beginning and the middle, right? We need an end, right? There needs to be a satisfying, you started something in the first paragraph, by the end, the last paragraph, it's wrapped up, it's complete. I don't need to go buy another book. I don't need to go do something else. And I'm going to say this because it's my channel and I can say what I want. But if you're submitting to someone else's project for an anthology, I don't recommend that you try to write a short story for your larger novel world, mostly because there are a lot of things that are not explained in the short story that are explained in your novel that you don't touch on in the short story because they've been explained in the novel, which then creates gaps, which then creates too many open ends for it to be a concise short story. If you're trying to incorporate a main character, a main storyline, a main plot point, the short story ends up reading more like a prequel chapter than a short story. And Not gonna lie, not gonna hold you. I can be honest because it's my channel. I can say what I want. Yet we're not going to accept those, mostly because it's not a short story. It's not complete.
Yeah, it really needs to be able to stand on its own. If people come read the short story, if they never go and read anything else, they need to be able to have gotten the full meal. Another just extra tip, if your short story has chapters, there's a good
It
chance you're doing it wrong. Your mindset is still stuck in a long story format, and you're not really considering the pacing of a good short story. So
Yeah.
if you have the inclination to add chapters, I would say pause and really think about what you're doing for your story.
And that's not to say that you shouldn't have scene breaks, but if you have chapter breaks, that's a completely different vibe. So I would keep that in mind. And also adding to that, specifically with anthologies, right? Keep in mind that you are going to be placed somewhere in line with other authors who are writing completely different worlds, completely different stories, completely different vibes. And the purpose of the anthology is to showcase everyone. And so you want to write a short story that is going to be able to stand next to other professionals and be like, hey, this is my story. I'm highlighting all of us as a whole, but you also want to write a story that's strong enough that once somebody reads it, they're like, oh, I really like this author's writing style. I like the way that they introduce the characters, the world building, the fact that the story was complete. Let me go and see what else they have written. That's kind of the point of an anthology, at least our anthology. I can't speak for everybody, but we're here to uplift Black authors and creators. So it's just like the goal is to stand with, not, I don't want to say outshine other people, but bring your A game, right? Which has an ending. The game has to end at some point, okay? Just throwing that out. Also, be mindful of the word counts. If someone says that there's a 7,000 word count, please do not submit a 7,100 word story because the upper word count was 7,000. Also, if the minimum word count is 3,000, 4,000, whatever, do not submit a 2,000 word story. Main thing is to follow the rules. Great. Glad we established that. Moving on to question number 2.